is a type of insect. It's any insect in the superfamily Apoidea. There's about 20,000 species of bees worldwide at least. We have about 4,000 in North America, and then we have about 365 in Massachusetts.
There are 3 types of bees in a hive. The queen, who is a fertile female. She lays all the eggs in the hive. She can lay anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 eggs a day. There are the worker bees, which are her daughters. They are infertile females.
Younger worker bees tend to be more of these bees that will nurture and care for baby bees, their larvae. And then as the bees start to age, they engage in more foraging behaviors, because if you think foraging is a more risky behavior, so it tends to be the older workers that will engage in that type of behavior.
Last of all, there are the drones, which are the male bees. They don't do much. They hang around, beg the females to be fed, and hope that a queen will be born so that they can chase her around.
There's this little symbiotic relationship between plants and trees and flowers.
And there's 2 things they get from flowers. One is pollen, and that provides the bees with proteins. And the other is nectar.
And that's like perfume on a person. The bees smell it. Now it's pretty high in sugar content. They collect that, they bring it back to the hive.
And this nectar will go into their crop, and it will be mixed in with a bunch of different enzymes, and then the bee will regurgitate this up through their crop into other bees' mouths, and then it gets deposited in cells, where it then gets fanned down and the water content gets evaporated off.
They dry it out to get it to a certain water content so that it will keep, because nectar spoils fairly fast, or it ferments, and then what's the product that's left is honey.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of bees to do this. One bee, I think, in their lifetime will do about 1 portion of a teaspoon, not even a full teaspoon. So the more bees you have in the hive, the more honey you get.
What we use for our sweetener is sugar. And everything that I've ever read about, sugar is a processed product, but honey is a natural product, all natural.
The first time I tasted my own honey, I thought, well, I'm just prejudiced. No, local honey tastes much better than the stuff you buy in the store.
If you look at the number of people in the world that we have today and the mouths that we have to feed, there is no way that we could get this food to market without the pollination of the honeybee.
My apples and blueberries get well pollinated. My neighbor who has a cranberry bog is very happy that I keep bees. About mid-June here in Carver, over 10,000 hives show up to pollinate the cranberries.
36%-ish food that we consume was somewhat dependent on pollinators. Now, if you really look at the actual study, what you'll find is that they used really exported data. So they looked at the Food and Agricultural Organization, and they looked at what is the amount of net weight exported. So there are a number of different foods that were in that particular study that we don't necessarily need pollinators for, and if the pollinators did not exist, we would still have those foods.
There was a food store down in Rhode Island one time that did a little experiment in their produce department. They took everything off the shelf that was pollinated by bees. Now all bees, honeybees, local bees, everything like that. And it turned out that 55% of the products that humans consume were gone from the store. Now, so you imagine yourself walking into a Stop and Shop or a Whole Foods, and 55% of the produce was not there for you to buy. Be a pretty sad world, right?
Colony collapse disorder is a term that cropped up in the 2000s, and it was a way to explain the mysterious disappearance of worker bees just leaving a hive and leaving the queen. But the term colony collapse has been used to explain just annual losses of honeybee hives despite other different factors. So if you were to lose a honeybee hive due to improper care or use of miticides or maybe a disease, that might still catch a headline as being called colony collapse, where in fact we know exactly what caused that.
They came out with a new group of pesticides called neonicotinoids. made from nicotine. The bees were actually taking that pesticide, bringing it back to the hive, and what that pesticide did, it made them lose their mind. So the next time they flew out of the hive, they didn't know how to find their way back home. So if they can't go back, the colony keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller until there's nothing left in there but the queen and a couple bees. A honeybee colony can't survive that way.
There are a lot of different diseases that mosquitoes transmit. They are controlled by the use of pesticides. So pesticides yearly are saving a lot of lives, a lot of human lives. But the issue comes to overuse of these pesticides or use in areas where they can cause a lot of ecological harm. I look at them in the same way that people might look at medicine. If you're taking medicine every single day and you're not sick, that can cause your body a lot of harm. But if you take it when you're sick, it can save your life. And I look at pesticides exactly that way.
We've messed up our environment so much with pesticides and other pollutants that the honeybees can't take it. And potentially we could be next.
I think one of the most important things is to recognize that your honeybee can fly up to 2 miles, but some of our native bees, you're looking at 1/10 to 1/3 of a mile. So it's really important to know that we can't fight this alone. Just kind of like honeybees, where you have 10,000 bees working together as a group to produce a hive, I think people need to really band together to help save the bee. Because one yard isn't gonna do it. But if we all take part in trying to save these bees, I think the cumulative effect will make a really large impact.
If we can make people understand what's going to happen here without the bees, I think people are going to react in a very positive way all by themselves.
The most important thing we can do is just spread the word about it. Teach people about it, let people know that this is not a trend, that this is not going away, that it's really important to wake people up to the fact that we need to keep trying, we need to keep at this.
So my most fulfilling part is this. I love educating other people. It's all about the education of honeybees because there's so many misconceptions out there. Get to know the bees, get to know honeybees, and then get out there and plant some flowers.
Monoculture agriculture is one of the worst things for bees because there's only one source of food. You can imagine if you only ate one food, that's it. So it's nice that the bees have a variety of trees and flowers and pollen and nectar sources, and I think it's healthier for them.
The bees would benefit so much from this, all bees. The biggest thing that will help the honeybee right now is for people just to educate themselves a little about what the bees are doing and what the bees need. And they need a lot of help right now, they really do.
And that looks good. Nice solid pattern.
This is great content.
We got a little bit of honey in the corners, that's typical. You can see some uncapped brood down in the corner over here.
Oh.
Oh, wow. You see that big fat drone in the middle? The queen will have a longer abdomen if we see her.
Is she like significantly bigger?
Than the workers, yeah.
Yeah.
But she's not fat like the drone is.
In all, how many bees do you own?
We have 10 hives currently.
So, doesn't like one hive hold like 10,000?
Yeah, I only have 10.
So you only
really
own-
want 80,000. This is my best hive.
So you own 10,000 bees?
Oh God, no. I got 10. Say there's 40,000 in each hive. There's an average. I've got 10 hives. That's 400,000 bees.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. My math was incorrect.